everyone. Thank you so much for coming to our meeting. At this time, I call this meeting of the Winthrop School Board to order. Please join me in rising to the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so our roll call looks like we have all our members here and our student representative who is on, he's competing today, right? I saw that on Facebook. That was really cool. Great picture of the group. Okay, and are there any adjustments to the agenda?
There are not.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the Winthrop School Board meeting minutes from January 15th, 2025 as written. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you very much. And we'll open up our public comment section at this time. If there are any folks in the room who would like to speak or those on Zoom, let us know by raising your hand. Seeing none, we'll go ahead and close our public comment section and enter into our report, starting with our superintendent report by Dr. Hickey.
Good evening. This evening, I regret to inform you the board of the resignation of Kenna Souza, Special Education Ed Tech. We thank her for her work with our students with disabilities. I am happy to report the appointment of Tess Ardis as our new adult ed administrative assistant. I'm also happy to report this evening that after consulting with business manager Nick Poole, we are confident that we can make it through this year without having to go back to the tax base. I want to thank the administrative team for their diligent work with their individual budgets. Without their support, we would not have been able to make it through the year in this extremely tight budget. In January, we spent $125,000. This is a little less than what we've been spending monthly, and if we stay on this track, we will get through to the end of the year and have a little left over. I'm looking forward to sharing the proposed FY26 budget with you later this evening. And then our second Q&A with Megan White and myself will be via Zoom on February the 12th at 4 o'clock. And we encourage the public and the staff to ask questions about our proposed budget or whatever other questions they may have on anything doing with Winthrop Public Schools. The auditors are still currently working on last year's budget, and they will be sharing their findings with the board at our next meeting on February 26th. All 4 electric buses are off the road awaiting repairs. We had a Zoom meeting last week with Lion Electric. Because of the bankruptcy, they can now no longer ship parts across the border. This means that I believe our buses will remain off the road for some time. Commissioner Macon has written to the EPA on our behalf and for other schools in Maine that have Lion buses to try to get a resolution to all of this. Additionally, I met with the EPA special agent last week who is looking into whether there was any potential fraud committed by Lion. I think whatever resolution may occur, it will probably take some time, and I will keep everyone posted on that. And then the board's next learning opportunity will be March 28th at 1 o'clock at the middle school to attend the town meeting there at the middle school. That sounds like a fun learning opportunity, and I hope many of you can make it. And that concludes my report for the evening.
Thank you very much, Dr. Foley. Does the board have any questions? Okay. Go ahead and move into the chair report. I attended Skills USA. It's always a fun one. That was January 23rd. It has been a couple weeks since we've met. I saw a lot of the trade students displaying their skills, and it was just really neat camaraderie and support that I saw on behalf of those students. I didn't have pictures like I had last year that I presented. I didn't have enough time to do that this time, so I regret that. I don't have pictures for you. We also attended, or myself and Dr. Foley attended, the Teaching Our Youngest Readers presented by folks at the grade school. We learned how important it is to have the foundations for basic reading implemented to build that solid foundation and then building upon that. So that was really interesting, informative. It talked about neuroscience and reading, which I just absolutely love that and find fascinating. And just really appreciate the team that you put together for us, because that was a really great presentation. Also, reporting on the superintendent search committee, we have a committee established. We are meeting tomorrow to take the next steps, looking at questions and whatnot for our interviews coming up. And I also sat in on a meeting with Ryan, with Dr. Foley and Josh Wheeler, and not much progress has been made. I did reach out to some staffers from Senator Collins' office, and they would be helpful in terms of sending a letter out on our behalf as their constituent. But we're putting that on hold for now until we get back from some of these other meetings. And that really does conclude my chair report. I also want to thank Megan and Colleen for helping with putting together. You can't hear me. I wanted to also thank Megan and Colleen for helping put together the when we were looking for folks to serve on our search committee. We had something on the website that was built, and so we really opened that up to everyone who wanted to apply, and the folks were able to do that. So I couldn't have done that without your help. That was great. Thank you, Megan and Colleen. And that does conclude my chair report. So we'll head into our student representative reports. And Abigail, let's give that to us.
Today, the Nordic team competed at Black Mountain in the NBC Championship. Both the girls and boys basketball teams are playing against Waterville, with tonight's boys game being especially significant as it marks their senior game. Looking ahead to Saturday, February 8th, wrestling will be traveling to Freiburg for the regional competition starting at 9 a.m. Additionally, hockey will also be facing off against Fulton at 1 p.m. On the academic side, we have got some recent successes and exciting events coming up. First, our third annual Winthrop Community Art and Humanities Night will take place on Wednesday, April 9th. This year's theme is wearable art, with activities such as henna tattoos, hair wrap, face painting, and duct tape embroidery. The newly established Dungeons and Dragons Club will also be hosting a booth, and we can't wait to see how they contribute to this event. Looking ahead, the New York trip is just 32 days away. The group will have the opportunity to see the musical Chicago and the play that goes wrong. It's sure to be a memorable experience for everyone. Lastly, the math team recently hosted its first home meet in several years. Big thank you to the volunteers who made this event a success and provided a good opportunity for students to engage in academic competition. Once again, we appreciate the continued support from the community and look forward to many exciting events ahead.
Thank you very much, Abigail. Does the board have any questions or comments? If I could just get that date from you for Humanities Night.
April 9th.
Okay, thank you. Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. At this time, we will move into our committee reports, starting with finance.
We did not meet, meeting in 2 weeks. Actually, 3 weeks.
Policy?
We've not met yet this month, but we are scheduled to.
And negotiations. We are meeting ongoing. We have several scheduled. We met this week. We're doing both the bus driver, and we've just recently opened up our support staff negotiations. Those are ongoing. And there are no administrator reports. So we'll move into our presentation motion by Megan White to return to school board protocols and COVID projects.
Hi, folks. This is our customary 6-month check-in around our COVID protocols as required by our ESSER in our emergency funding grants. It is a requirement of our grants that every 6 months we check in at the board level around our protocols for safety and update on any projects that are ongoing. So our guidance right now, we're going to just be continuing our CDC guidance, which is around COVID-19, just to continue to treat things as a viral infection and move forward with that safety protocol. All of the projects for all of the ESSER grants had to be completed by September 30th. We finished all of our spending and billing by the end of the month of August. So we spent every penny of our ESSER 3 grant, which was the only one that was open. And everything ended very nicely with that. We do have one last piece with that grant cycle, which is a performance report, which will most likely be released next month, where we report out on all of the uses for that and some demographic information on the impacts for our students and for our districts. So at this point, this may be the last report that I'll have to do because those funds have reached the end of their period of performance. But just to cross our T's and dot our I's, I wanted to make sure that we did. Make sure that you folks were aware that we were done, and we are still lined up to finish everything up just as we should.
Thank you very much. Does the board have any questions for Megan? Okay, thank you very much, Megan. Okay, we have no old business today, so entering into new business, I'll entertain a motion to approve the following policy for first reading, BCH, the student board member policy.
So moved.
Seconded?
And want to discuss that?
Yes, I want to thank Joseph, our student rep, for attending the meeting. That was very nice to have him there. And there's only one significant change in this policy, which is that we are adding the word non-binding. Previously, it had read that students were non-voting members, but as you know, we do have them vote because we want to kind of have them weigh in on all issues. So what we just changed it to read non-binding voting members. And I think that somehow when it was first run off in your packet, it might not have said the voting. So we put in a revised version in your packet. And that's the only change.
Any questions from the board? Okay, all those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you very much for your support. Okay, I'll entertain a motion to delete the following policy as recommended by the policy committee, EBB, school response to violence. Safety is covered under the comprehensive safety plan that the board votes on yearly. So that's the rationale for why we'd like to delete this.
So moved.
Seconded?
Discussion?
We are asking to remove this because of the comprehensive safety plan. And I just also wanted to let the board know that our last board workshop is around safety also, and that will be on April the 16th. But we do not feel that we need this policy because of our safety plan.
We do that? Okay, all those in favor? That's unanimous vote. Thank you very much. And heading into our FY26 budget presentation by Dr. Foley.
On behalf of our administrative team, I'm excited to present an overview of our proposed FY26 budget that presents our team's best thinking on how to move learning forward in Winthrop Public Schools. Winthrop's vision states that the power of ideas changes attitudes, lives, and ultimately the world. In order for us to realize this vision, we must invest in our children's education. Enrollment in Winthrop has been steadily decreasing. Over the past 10 years, there has been a 10.3% decrease in enrollment. We expect the enrollment to stabilize and remain flat for next year. Our largest decrease in enrollment has been at the grade school with a 17% decrease, a 5% decrease at the middle school, and a 10% at the high school over the past 10 years. The board adopted a strategic plan in 2023. The FY26 budget focuses on all three of these strategic goals. More specifically, we have three areas of focus for this year's budget: establishing an accurate baseline budget, to address safety needs, and to focus on increasing student achievement. First and foremost, we must establish an accurate baseline budget. We began this current year's budget with a $751,000 shortfall, which reflects a 5.6% increase in expenditures just to get us out of the hole. I reported in the fall that we knew at first glance that we were at least $500,000 in the hole. As we have gone through the year, Nick keeps reviewing the budget, and we realized that we were under budgeted more than we thought in September. We have only been able to weather this deficit by extremely limiting spending this year and by the diligence of all of the administrators in overseeing their cost centers, and also in delaying capital improvement projects that were targeted for this year. We have left unfilled positions unfilled. This is not ideal, but it's what we did to not have to go back out to the taxpayers to get through this current year. As we built this year's budget, we reviewed last year's historical spending and spoke about our most critical needs. This is truly a baseline budget. It does not address all the needs we have. This budget establishes some good fiscal habits. It begins to provide an annual donation to the established turf account so that in 10 years, when the turf needs to be replaced, there is money to do so. In future years, we will need to give much more than $5,000, but this is a starting point. This budget also establishes a $100,000 maintenance line for capital improvements. We cannot maintain our buildings through dependence on the undesignated fund balance. That's a little bit like hoping that grandma dies so we can replace the roof on the house. Undesignated fund balances and gifts from relatives are a time for extras, not for required maintenance. I would hope to build this line up to $200,000 in the future. We also have not previously budgeted anything for overtime in transportation, which is also not fiscally responsible. It is inevitable that there will be some overtime incurred because of sports and co-curricular trips. This budget establishes an overtime line. It also establishes accurate salary and benefit lines, all needed for good fiscal management. Lastly, it invests in professional development for staff, which we have not had adequate funding for this year because of the frozen budget. Without professional development, there can be no expectation that our student achievement will improve. It's only when we know better that we can do better. And we only know better by growing professionally. This is not an extravagance. It is essential for building strong schools. Our number 2 focus area is safety. Our current phone system has reached its end of life. We can no longer add lines. More importantly, we cannot repair or replace the phones because they are so outdated. This has been put off until it can no longer be put off. In order to invest in our students, we must begin to have a targeted focus on improved student achievement. We have previously implemented many steps that include having a pre-K, having universal breakfast and lunch, putting in a robust response to intervention system at the grade school. We have hired 2 technology support positions. We have now established a dropout prevention district-wide committee. We have restructured schedules at the grade and middle school. We've implemented WIN buddies at the high school. We have hired an additional guidance counselor at the grade school. And we have at-risk committees at both the middle and high school. But this is not enough. This slide shows the need to focus on improved student achievement. Based upon the NWEA, which is our state assessment, we want to have all of our students scoring in the yellow, green, and blue. This reading data is not headed in the direction that we want. We want to see the green and blue areas increase over time, and we have the opposite trend happening. The good news is that this has flattened out over the past year. We now hope to see the blue and green areas begin increasing, and we have recommended steps we want to implement. Our math data is also not trending the way we would want it to. Again, we want to see the green and blue areas increase, and we have the opposite trend happening. Like reading, this has flattened out over the past year. We now hope to see this trend reversed. As an administrative team, we discussed what was needed to begin reversing these trends. The first is to add an interventionist at the middle school. We had hoped to add a full-time position, but this was cut down to half-time when we saw the increase in the school budget just from establishing the baseline budget and replacing the phone system. This slide shows the need at the middle school from their reading achievement. You can see that 49% of our students are not scoring where they need to be in reading. Again, we strive to have all students scoring in the yellow, green, and blue. With the addition of a half-time interventionist, students will receive the targeted interventions that they need to improve. Equally as important, we are seeing a need at the high school for a credit recovery teacher. Again, we had hoped to make this a full-time position, but this was reduced down to half when we saw the increase from the baseline budget and replacing the phone system. As you know, our dropout rate is also trending in the opposite direction that we would like. We are currently losing about 1 in 4 students. We find this completely unacceptable and hope to remedy this issue partially through the credit recovery teacher. This budget reflects a 9.39% increase in expenditures from this current year. Remember that 5.6% of this increase is digging out of the hole we are currently in. The remaining 3.79% is the increase we would be having if it wasn't for the hole that we are currently in. A 3.79% increase is a very reasonable request when you consider inflation over the past 12 months is 2.9. Our first budget was an 11.25% increase. We met with all administrators after our initial review a second time to reduce spending to get us to this 9.39% increase. Here is a line graph depicting historical spending on the school budget. Over the past 10 years, it has ranged from a negative 3.05% to our request for this coming year of a 9.39%. On this slide, I have added a red line to show the consumer price index or inflation for the same period as the budget changes. There were years that we were not even close to keeping up with inflation. If you add up all of the differences between our budget change and inflation, it comes out as a negative 9.24%. Or another way to say it is that we are 9.24% behind the inflation rate. Our budget has not kept up with inflation over the past 8 years. This slide shows the increased spending by article. Please remember that many of the numbers that are in the current year are not accurate. Lines were not accurately budgeted, and now that they are for next year's budget, you will see enormous increases in some lines and articles. You really can't compare lines this year, but through the establishment of a baseline budget in future years, the data will be accurate and you will be able to compare year-to-year spending. The major drivers of this 9% increase are the deficit that we began the year with and other areas that I've already spoken about. Additionally, we are under budgeted by about $100,000 in our subline. We also have a $45,000 increase in our property and casualty insurance rates. And we also, unfortunately, just discovered in the past 2 weeks that our 15-year partnership with SKCDC, which provided us with support in our pre-K classroom, is ending. This requires that we hire an ed tech for the pre-K program so that we meet the state requirements of a 1-to-8 student-teacher ratio. Where we could reduce, we have reduced. We are eliminating 2 classroom teachers at the grade school, 1.5 teachers at the middle school, a half-time special ed teacher, 1 bus driver, and the reduction to just 1 year-round bus driver. We cut supplies and equipment where we could. Most of those were over budgeted, but where we could squeak out a few dollars, we did that. There are a few areas where there could be more increases or decreases. We are still negotiating 2 contracts, and we will not know our medical insurance cost until early March. For the medical insurance, we budgeted at an 11% increase based upon what it went up last year. A quick glimpse of our revenues. We are receiving less from the state because the town's property valuation increased by $110 million. Our tuition payments from Fayette are also decreasing due to one of our students graduating. The main care and the miscellaneous are remaining the same. Our declining enrollment over the past few years also lessens the amount we receive from the state. There were many needs that we just couldn't fund this year. That includes the jobs for my graduate position at the high school that they've been wanting for a while, the other half of the interventionist positions that I've already talked about, many capital improvement projects that Joel will talk about when he reviews his budget. And as you heard tonight, our electric buses are probably not going to be running. We could ideally easily add another bus to the fleet, but we've been able to get by this year, and I'm just hoping that the buses will not break and that we'll be able to get by for another year because of the increase that this is already putting off. We believe that this budget provides a pathway for every student to achieve success. And our next steps towards adopting this budget is our discussion will begin with you tonight And then on Monday, I will give the same presentation to the town council. And at the next board meeting, administrators will begin their presentations and give you more specific information about each of the cost centers. We believe this budget strengthens and moves Winthrop Public Schools forward, breaking barriers and providing opportunities for all of our students to succeed. And just by happen chance, today is the 10th annual Global Play Day. And our students at Winthrop Grade School join 2 million students of all around the world in celebrating the importance of play without the use of screens or structured games. And I was able to take a moment to step outside and witness the joy of our students being outside, enjoying the snow and one another and just being kids. I know that this budget is higher than any of us want, but it is what is needed to ensure that we establish fiscally sound practices and put us on the pathway to increasing student achievement at all levels. We hope that we can gain your support in advocating for the children of Winthrop Public Schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Foley. Do you have any questions or comments?
I do have some questions. Thank you for an excellent presentation, Dr. Foley. I am wondering if what you think about posting, about doing a small video production, similar to what you just gave, to have posted on our website. I know that we have the school board meetings recorded, but I think that when the public sees, 9 point, whatever it is, increase, if they are not clear that it's actually, 3.7? Because of having to dig ourselves out of this hole. I just wanted to think about how we can make sure that the public has good clarity about what we're doing. And I think you explained it very well there. I think having it accessible on the website in this sort of form can be very helpful.
Thank you. We also, as a team, talked about, and we haven't settled on a date, but some type of community forum where the town council and the community members could come out, and it would be not a board meeting, but just something where it might be here, and that people could, we could have tables, and they could go to the different cost centers if they have questions, because, we know it's a big lift, but we also know it's a need, and so we want to be able to answer any questions that they have.
That was one of the things I was going to propose is doing, is doing an open forum with the community. Because last year there was a huge lack of transparency when board members and people requested information. There was some intentional targeting and slander. When there was some real concerns that should have been raised and discussed to bring transparency to our schools, as well as our school boards and our community, and especially for our students. One of my concerns is that as we are increasing our budgets, our students' learning with math, reading, core academics is going plunging down. For me, with somebody with learning disabilities, and we have a large amount of our students who face all kinds, that's extremely concerning. There's a lot of barriers and stressors and challenges. These kids face a lot, and with decreasing our teachers and pulling them out of our budgets, I'm really concerned for our students because it does take a little extra time. There's different ways to approach each child depending on their history. And instead of discouraging, we need to try and encourage. So I would really like to be able to sit down and really get into discussing this. I know you guys are doing awesome with your budgets, and that's their thing, but I think if we all came together and were able to ask more questions and feel more comfortable and not like on the spot, maybe we can brainstorm these amazing talents and from all different skills here, and I think that we can do something better than this. I know budgets are everything to run stuff, but looking at how our kids are going down with their core academics, that's concerning. And I think as all of us, we can do better for our students. I know there's some amazing teachers when I sat on doorsteps running for the seat. A lot of amazing retired teachers in our community, people who's run large corporations, hands-on stuff like that is amazing knowledge that are willing to give their free time. And if we have people in our community, I don't know why we're not looking at options like that to better our students. We can't keep placing those burden on our families. Families are already struggling with budgets, robbing from Peter to pay Paul, and then taking from Paul to pay Peter. And that impacts students. It impacts the way they think. They stress over their parents. You can hide everything you want from a student or your child, and they still sense it. They're extremely smart. And that also places a lot of emotional stressors and barriers on our students. So I would like to be able to have more open forums and discussions on this. I think when anybody raises a concern, I think instead of being closed-minded, we need to be open-minded and find alternative perspectives and put them on the table so we can look at it at different angles and directions to better our students.
Thank you very much, Aggie.
Any other comments or questions from the board?
Thank you. I just want to say that I really appreciate seeing that there's going to be a focus on educational achievement. Again, it is a little frightening to see the trends that we have been in, so it will be great to watch it go back in the other direction. So I appreciate you making sure that there's a focus on that and how we're going to achieve that with next year's budget. And I also want to say thank you, Dr. Foley. I know that the budget has not been easy to work with this year, and you have put a lot of time and energy into making sure that our school can continue to operate as it is. We appreciate you.
Thank you, Erica. Monica?
Yes, I think that's a great idea. And I wonder if our administrators, I know their time is precious, but I wonder if there could be some research done about what are some model programs out there that help build community involvement. We do have a lot of talent in the community and willingness of people to help out. I love that idea. I'm also wondering if the professional development can be targeted around that. Those graphs are appalling. Our dropout rate is appalling. And I think we need to really take some strong steps to address both of those. I don't have the answers, but I would like for our administrators to start finding them.
Thank you, Monica. Any other questions from the board or comments?
Just two things. One, I think what Monica said was with the video, realistically, most of the parents aren't going to come. I think to talk, come to these meetings. I think they will look at their phone. So they will watch the video. We can just, otherwise, just have this board meeting, whatever, just have you just blurt it out, just like you do with everybody know. Please look at this video. I think they would.
Okay. And I'm sure Tip would be willing to help with her course, and we can have the kids helping us and maybe do those kind of sound bites. And I know that Megan's been really good about posting it like on Facebook.
The other thing is, and again, I'm not trying to be controversial, I'm not trying to argue. I think, and I could be wrong, when we're talking about the budget, yeah, I don't know if, then we're talking about how to teach, how to do curriculum in schools. I don't know if that's particularly budget centered. That's almost another topic.
You mean about the professional development?
Yeah, and going, I think that could be a conversation, but I don't know if that's talking about the budget.
Well, our professional development is primarily funded through the budget, right?
Yes, but I mean, are we going to now, are we doing the budget, are we mandating what we're going to do?
Oh, for the professional development?
Yeah,
Well, that's,
usually we haven't done that, we haven't
no.
told the teachers what they have to do, or, so I just think that's a quick conversation.
Yes.
But I don't know if it's, because we're not going to put it in the budget, we're not going to say what we're going to do.
Correct.
So when we have a budget conversation, we can have a separate conversation.
Right.
I think that you will hear more about that when the principal and Megan present their budget about, you know, the thing that comes to my mind right now is that we're implementing a new reading program at the elementary school. And when you implement new curriculum without the professional development, sometimes, you know, people look at the data and are like, well, that program doesn't work. And a lot of times it's because they haven't had enough professional development in the implementation of new programming, and that's where the budget comes in.
Yeah, I just want to just be careful that we're not,
Oh, like me saying you'll go to this?
we're not saying
Yes, right,
how to do it.
right, no, that is the administrative team. Thank you so much for reinforcing that. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you, Tim and Dr. Foley. I actually wanted to speak on that too, because, you know, this happened to be one of the topics that was covered in the reading, you know, helping students learn to read. And I learned as a board member how important it is for our teachers to get the professional development so they can implement the curriculum that they have chosen for the students. And we had this discussion last year when we were talking about parent teacher conferences for professional development. And so I found that extremely applicable because of the conversations that we have had in the past. And so hearing that from you and your team, showing, I just, that hit home. And so I recognized how important that is, because I think in the past, and I'm only assuming here, is that we had a good curriculum, but we didn't have the PD days to really show the teachers how to utilize it. And so without, you can give someone tools, but without knowing how to use them, you then see you can see deficits, which may have contributed to some of the results. I don't know, I'm making a link here. I mean,
Just a little bit of clarity in case that was a bit confusing, but I know for me, it takes money to provide professional development. It takes money to buy the curriculum and the materials for the students. So there needs to be a bridge overlap. I didn't hear anybody saying that, kind of what you shared, but I'm glad that we can bring up those different perspectives in case people see it in different directions, which is awesome. But we do need to kind of overlap. Teachers and the administrators are great at doing what they need to do for what they need, but we need to kind of help bridge that gap because those things take funding, and to ensure that we are making enough funding for them to do and bring those programs, get the staff the training and all that, it does overlap. So yes, that defined, we should make sure we keep that separate and respect those things, but I think there's better ways that we can kind of collaborate to get the funding and put different perspectives in so that we can get the money to get the students what they need.
Monica?
For clarity, were you saying that you would like to see this? Yes, obviously it is. It's very relevant to the budget, so professional development and other things that take money in order to move toward better student achievement. Were you saying you would like to see that examined separately or to hear more in depth from our administrators about what the plan is for improving student achievement aside from budgetary concerns?
I don't know, it is kind of muddling with each other. I just want to be careful, again, that we as a board do not go in the classroom. We do not start dictating how things are taught, how things are done, or make sure we don't cross that line. So as long as we don't do that. But information is good.
Thank you, Tim and Monica. So I guess I'll speak to, I do think the video is a phenomenal idea. Having attended the forums, I didn't see great turnout. We could possibly have better attendance if it's something that's advertised for the website at the last handout. But I do like the idea of the video, having that accessible on the district website to something very similar to show that data.
Maybe an open Zoom. I know our teachers have done both community meetings with the community, and I think Jolene, you did a Zoom one. So maybe some input from administrators, what seems to work best at each school, so we can gain maybe a bigger idea of what ways to present this to our community or get community involvement. Even, maybe you do a lot with the questionnaire stuff, so maybe that's a different direction.
And anecdotes are powerful, narrative is powerful. To hear some specific needs, even from teachers that are directly affected. That's another idea of kind of building this out, and it doesn't need to be, what I envisioned was having Dr. Foley talk similar to how she did here, but, having some spots where, we have some specific talk about where that money would go and why it's needed. Could be very valuable and very persuasive.
I think for me, one of the most vital information feedback would be from our students. A lot of them are hearing a lot of them talk about their college and their futures. We've been down to the grade schools already planning, hear some of the chatter. And I think a lot of their feedback would be extremely appreciative. I know attending some of the meetings that I have over the last year, there was a lot of students and parents whose kids have already graduated into college, felt like there wasn't enough to bridge between high school and college, and that left a lot of the college students feeling kind of lost. So it'd be great to have their perspective as well, since they know exactly what they want and what they can. So I think it would be great to have that feedback when it comes to the budget.
Thank you everyone for your feedback. We will enter into the public comment section. If there's anyone on Zoom or in the room who would like to speak. Is that this time? Okay. Closing out the public comment section, we'll move into school board comments or school board comments.
Yes, I don't know if any of you saw some statistics that I think were and the KJ, some other publications about where we stand, Maine stands with children's reading, and it's bad. One of the things that I'm wondering is if there's a program. I was so sorry to miss that opportunity at the grade school. I've had COVID and I've been out of state, but I really wanted to attend that. I'm sorry I couldn't. But I'm wondering about the development of programs that encourage parents and children. You talked about some terrific things that you guys have been doing with parents and kids. Really so exciting. I wonder if there's something, particularly for the younger ones, and that I know too at the middle school, we start losing boys. Boys stop reading in middle school. I've read so much about this, that you see boys' reading rates just absolutely plummet. Read the book I recommend, Reading Don't Fix No Chevys. Terrific. Read, but it's a very real thing, and I wonder, if we had some targeted things, particularly at the grade school, where parents come together with kids and they're just encouraged and modeled to be doing some reading. I don't know. So I thought the other thing that I was wondering is a question from Megan, really, with the declining enrollment and how might we capture the number of students that WPS loses to online, parochial, charter, and private schools? Because I know I've talked with parents who've chosen not to go to Winthrop public schools for various reasons. But more and more parents are making that choice. And I think we're seeing that in some of our declining enrollment. I wonder, if there are any ideas about how we can capture those numbers so that we could look at maybe a plan or, of what's going on, find out why, and how we might fix that.
I think that Colin probably captures that through different reports that we had. We could look at putting something together on the future day to kind of show you that. But it is, it's pretty typical for every district to kind of grapple with that. And as somebody who believes in, like, you know, there are multiple pathways to success, you know, there are families that just prefer like a religious school for their child, or a private high school. So, but we can probably get some data on that, gather that in the future.
Thank you, Dr. Foley. And IJ, sorry, hand?
Yes. I just want to say I did get to attend the Winter Ball. It was an amazing and fun time. Everyone was dressed up. Parents were dressed up. It was a really fun night. And I also want off the feedback and off you in the reading, I understand, and Jamie, you might be able to say better, that there's some high school kids working on a vending machine for the grade school as a reward or something. I think they're still working on the details for books for children. I understand there is a community member that heard and is offering to donate to that. So I don't know if that's something maybe the kids can put out, or we can kind of put out there. I think this would be a great opportunity to try and get that project kind of up and going for our students. And I think there's a lot of people in our communities, if they find out more about it, would donate. And I think that might be a great encouragement out of the reading and fun.
Thank you, Ivy. Any other board comments? Okay.
We do have an executive session this evening. So those folks who've been invited to stay for that, we'll have you guys stay, and then those who are not, we'll have you pack up and